declaration of an EOC. And the political need at the very bottom, probably the biggest and most important one is the declarations. If there's a need to evacuate people, the actual declaration of a state of local emergency must come from the council in charge of the area, in the case of the seat of the board. BCERMS, through just its structure, provides a very easy access to provincial and federal assets. Currently, the local program is supposed to exhaust their assets, but as soon as that is happening, or you know it's going to be happening, you can very quickly get through in the province and start getting into higher levels of support. BCERMS also can look after media relations. We have trained, and we're going to do a course this summer. We actually to speak to once a press release is approved, then we have resources who can deal with the media. PDA, I mentioned there, is the personal assistance, which is the 72 hours of support to give out to people who are fires. But any situation at their house or residence, we can support them for 72 hours. And the biggest part is long-term planning. Kate will talk a bit more about it, but we're finding that when the response is happening to the incident, you already have to start turning your mind to recovering from it, both as a local government. I think that's turning out to be more and more critical, and you see it covered off in the newscasts all the time, is public information and awareness for the citizens. The public has to know what is going on, and try and keep stuff from them or don't give it to them. It just causes a lot of problems. So through BCERMS, we can kick that into gear quite quickly and hopefully quite adequately. And we can help the local authorities with evacuations. Police are in charge of evacuations, but we can support them and give them extra manpower. You have to push the button one more time. And the last thing on this slide is we're also SEP, the Shuswap Emergency Program, is a conduit into PEP, the emergency program, for disaster financial assistance to situations where after the event is over, there's a mechanism where you can apply to the province for support if the incident meets their criteria. BCERMS has another click. The whole issue, the whole program works on 8 response goals, and these are in priority. Throughout the whole aspect of emergency management, we stay with 8 priorities. And the first, we'll never put anybody in danger. No first responders or nobody in the EOC is put in danger. And then we work down the list to save lives, reduce suffering. Down the list, protect government infrastructure. That's more than just buildings. That's the communication system. You know, the mechanisms that keep government working, whether that be a cellular tower on a hill that we don't want to be burned, but roads. So that's what's involved there. And I'm just going to talk a bit about, there's some guiding principles to BCERMS, to the world of emergency management in BC. There's 5 primary management functions, which Kate will talk about in a second. It's a modular setup in that you can activate only what components you need. Build this component stronger if that's a need of the day or more. And just to quickly you can deactivate it. It's a very modular concept. Chain of command is that at times you have to make quick decisions based on limited information, and there is a chain of command with the EOC director who will make that decision in concert with the policy group. Unity of command is simply that everybody understands the command structure. When you're operating with police, fire, ambulance, and all the other first responders have maybe they're different internal command structures. BCERMS is number 1 that is easily understood. Span of control is that you never get into a situation where a supervisor or guiding and directing more than 7 people. You try and keep it so that nobody gets burnt in this process. As Ted mentioned, you have some long days of time. A common terminology, again, every first responder group has their own terminology for different things, and BCERMS brings a common language for dealing with disasters. And Ted mentioned the color-coded identification. You can walk into any EOC environment and just looking at the colors, do not roll in that room. You admire the second as well. Kate will come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Ted. Thanks, Ted. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I get to do the fun part under Monica's lead here. They say women are supposed to be able to multitask, but that's okay. I'll just do this one thing at a time. To describe for you, if you could show me the next slide. The SEP organization chart. the administrative organization chart, as well in the up-and-coming slides, the organization chart within the Emergency Operations Center. So the Shuswap Emergency Program is led fully by the management team, being coordinator, as manager of the Shuswap Emergency Program. And we also have a part-time assistant, which is Kathy Senchuk. And as Ted had advised earlier, she's also the director of the Emergency Social Services Program. So we're very fortunate in that we are one of 5 emergency programs in the province that have a paid staff employee to direct our emergencies program. Starting at the top is the executive committee, which on the program development and at a more executive level. And coming down the org chart, we have our management committee. And we're quite unique in the province in that not every emergency program has the benefit of a management committee. So we have set up our emergency program so that we have the executive committee and the management committee to assist our program through the more general day-to-day administrative functions. So down at the very bottom row, we've broken our program as well into a number of committees, working committees, made up of paid staff and our volunteers, which our volunteer component is the Shuswap program. So off to the HRBA and planning committee are in the process of leading our hazard risk vulnerability analysis, and we hired a company called Emergex through some grant funding to complete this project with us. And we developed a committee to provide input to the consultants on the HRBA. We have next to that our SEP deputy coordinators. We have 3 volunteers throughout the SEP region who are deputy coordinators who would be the direct liaison with Cliff as the full-time emergency coordinator. And so Peter Kilby, I'm sure most of you know, he's back on our program and he's one of our deputy coordinators for the Greater Salmon Arm region. And we have Tom Day, who covers the Sicamous and area out to Three Belly Gap. And we have a new recruit into the position, Jerry Kendall, who looks at the North Shore, Scotch Creek and up to Seymour. We have volunteer committee, and the volunteer committee looks after not only recruitment of volunteers for the program, but also volunteer recognition and implementing those programs and honorariums for our volunteers. We have the exercise design team. So this is a group that's headed up by Peter Kilby as the director of our exercise design team. So this is where we put together, plan, organize, develop any exercises, orientation exercises, tabletop, full-scale exercises, which we are planning for next year on the ground, in the field. Then we have our community groups, such as the Salmon Arm Radio Club, service clubs. That's the ham radio operators, our Rotary clubs. And then we have our agencies, CMP, BC Ambulance Service, Red Cross. So those are our agencies that come under as part of our SEP organization. So I'll just go into a bit of detail then about the SEP Executive Committee. So our Executive Committee is comprised of 7 elected officials, and Marty and Kevin being 2 of those. And we now meet twice a year to virtually oversee the provision of the program from a program organizational staffing perspective. So for example, when we appoint an EOC director, that appointment goes through the Executive Committee to our board. The Executive Committee assists the Shuswap Emergency Program with putting together our budget and approving our annual budget, and also for policies and direction. And this policy group, the Executive Committee, can form, the Executive Committee, can form part of our EOC policy group. So if we are in activation, we have the EOC up and running, and we're in the middle of an emergency or a disaster, great or small, we would rely on the Executive Committee to provide us with policy direction. And we also, as part of the whole entire team, we rely on